Good evening. James Toma. I'm a former councilman. Mark Taylor came up through the ranks of the West Covina Police Department. He lives in our community. His children have gone to our schools. He was and is a good police officer and a good police chief. When the city hired him, he forewent his pension and he saved the city, by my estimate, about $270,000. Your interim city manager has been here, a month? Chief Taylor's been here many, many years in the department, a year and a half as our chief. Now the city manager, the fire chief, the HR director, the finance directors, the interim HR director, now the police chief are all gone. Mr. Wu says he's got his council majority behind him and he's bringing in his team, as if West Covina were his own personal fiefdom. Public servants have become political pawns. I've heard only a couple criticisms of Chief Taylor, neither of which have any merit. The first is that Chief Taylor had said that we have to abide by the laws in our city when it comes to how the city and the police treat the homeless. Yeah, you heard me right. He said we have to abide by the law as a city. I assure you that the courts have made clear that communities can't just roust up people, throw out their property. It's very clear, and the limitations on what cities and police officers can do is very clear. But apparently some people think that stating facts is a fireable offense. The police chief also said that homelessness isn't unique to West Covina, that it's a societal problem. That's the truth. And people with agendas have purposely twisted his comments out of context and had claimed falsely that the chief denied that we need to address homelessness. We obviously do. The second criticism I heard is that Chief Taylor cut police staffing. Let me remind you that the city, due to decisions that were made some 20 years ago, have had to pay about $20 million extra for pension retirements in the last few years. We spend 80% of our general fund budget on public safety. It's higher than any other city in the area. The chief wasn't responsible for those decisions that increased our expenses by $20 million. Some council members, however, would like to deceive people, including some police officers, to think that we can have it all. Increase police officers, increase their pay millions to firefighters for their pay and their overtime, and increase retirement pensions without having it have a fiscal impact on our residents. Of course, that's an obvious lie, and a lie that's been promulgated by persons who are sitting here in this chamber. This is about political payback. It's about politicians who view public servants as pawns, or who are just indifferent or don't even understand their ethical obligations as elected officials. It's a poorly kept secret that a sales tax measure is being discussed. Firing the police chief seems to be part of that political strategy to try and get the fire and police unions to put a sales tax on the measure for you. When I was on the council, I supported putting a sales tax measure on the ballot because I know we need police officers. It is the highest priority for our city. You heard the discussion by police management about the need for those officers. I've always said that's our first priority. And yet, some politicians would say, no, we don't need taxes, and would essentially lie to the public about it. You've all campaigned, I should say all, many of you have campaigned saying we don't need taxes. But you have no plan. You've been, since your campaign, it's been a year. What is your plan for increasing our police officers? I haven't heard it yet. It's been a year since you started campaigning. What is the plan? There is no plan, and you know it. So the only option is try and get officers or firefighters to put a tax measure on the ballot for you, because you're going to try and deny it because you campaigned for it. Mr. Wu wants his team. He said that you're part of his majority. And that's sure what it looks like from this side of the dais. Thank you.